Today we're gonna try something new that we haven't seen before. We're gonna critique our own photos that we just shot last week.
Let's just get right into it. Good?
No, that was terrible.
Okay.
So we had about 15 minutes left of golden hour after one of our shoots to do a second look with Jasmine. So we were kind of in a rush and we're both a little under the weather, so we weren't maybe as inspired as usual. Normally when we have to film a photo shoot, we're kind of rushed anyways and we're worrying about the video aspect as well as taking good photos. So we're kind of used to shooting rushed anyways.
Let's just get right into it. Okay, for this first photo, it's a good first photo because it's super critiquable. There's a lot of things I would have done differently if I had a little bit more time and I slowed down and actually thought about my shot more. For starters, it's crazy crooked. There's not even really a good way of fixing it. There's very little foot room. In fact, I'm cropping off her toes a little bit. There's some trash on the ground that if I had a little bit more time, I maybe would have recycled. All those things kind of, like, they're technically wrong. However, I don't think they totally make this photo unusable because they kind of give it a really chaotic feeling that goes with her chaotic pose of throwing her coat. So I kind of like it. That being said, I would love to slow down and maybe do a shot that took all those things into account.
If you're gonna have a crooked photo, it should add to it. And in this case, I think it does, whether it's technically correct or not.
Yeah, there should be a reason for you to break the rules.
Also, you're scared of heights, so you might have just been rushing to get off the fire escape.
Yeah, I really didn't like being on it.
Okay, then I had an idea to do, when Rachel's doing a lot of movement with Jasmine, capturing a lot of that, I thought it'd be cool to do a slow shutter. So I wanted Jasmine to keep her head mostly still and just move kind of her torso and arms a little bit. That way her head would her face would stay in focus. This shot, I think is pretty cool. The fire escape is kind of cramped quarters. It's hard to get like different angles. And so I don't love like the telephone wires, you know, the telephone pole behind her head, everything like that. It'd been a lot better to get, you know, open sky behind her. The hand movement's kind of cool, but it's also a little weird maybe. So I think I'd rather have more of the jacket movement than just the limbs. I think that would have maybe made it less like kind of weird like that. And it also feels like a little tight. Like I think I'm getting a little close to cropping off her knees. So I think it'd be better to kind of scoot back a little bit more. What would you say about it?
Well, what I would say is, yeah, I agree with a lot of things that you said, but really the way that you shot it, there's no better angle that you can really get on the fire escape, because if you take a step to your right, that's just, you would fall through. Yeah, I would say the best way that you could have shot that was with open sky behind her, if you would have gotten more to the right, but you couldn't. And then I like the weirdness of the fingers. Like, whenever you do like a weird thing, it makes people stop and actually look at your photo. So I always try to do like something that makes people want to stop. So I like the weirdness of it. And also when you were doing like the movement with the slow shutter speed, I was like, oh dang, I should have done that. Like I was excited for you, but sad for me. So when Daniel was shooting for this third one, I was watching him through the windows and I realized this is like super cool. I can use them to frame Jasmine. So really fast before we moved on to our next location, I had her get into this right third, right where the window framed her, and then lean in, and then I had her put her hands up so that it would frame her even further and also create some depth between the camera and her. I think the thing that I would change is I tried a few things before I got to this lower angle, and as I was doing that, I was focusing on her eyes, but when I moved to this lower angle, the focus shifted, and I think that her hair is in focus, and then her nose is like a little bit more in focus, and then her eyes, and I would have rather had her eyes be the most prominent thing in focus. So that's what I would do differently.
Yeah, I think it's a really cool angle, and I love the subframing of it, so very cool. Doctor.
Okay, next is a series of mine. This is a photo that I really wanted to get for a long time because I was walking down the street at sunset, like maybe a month before this, and I saw these plastic, like car wash things.
Oh, those plastic danglers are?
The plastic danglers. And I knew we had this plastic raincoat, and I thought it'd be so cool if we combine the two, and I've been wanting to do it, and I was so stoked that we finally had an opportunity to do it. And so the thing about this is not only were we fighting sunset, which the sun was pretty much setting here, we also always get yelled at by the security guard that runs this place. And
he runs the place.
He runs the joint. He really does, on his bike, which is even more intimidating because he's fast. So I was not only fighting the sun, I was trying to get it done.
Fighting the security guard.
Yes, I was also fighting the security guard. I was just trying to get my shots really fast. I knew that at any moment he could ask us to leave. There's a few things that I might do differently for these shots if I maybe had the time to slow down and think about them. For example, in this first shot, I like that the leading lines are headed her direction and that she's in pretty much in the bottom right third. But I think what I would do differently is I maybe in the future would have her maybe step a few more back so that we really get all those leading lines going to her. Maybe I would put her in the third one back. And another thing is she's facing away from the sunset, which is fine. I'm still getting a lot of light on her face, but if we would have had a reflector, that would have been cooler.
Real quick, I love your idea for this series, like getting the plastic raincoat and tying that into the shooting locations is a really good idea.
Yeah.
Good job.
We recycled everything afterwards though, so. Okay, so for this one, I always like getting a lower angle. It has like an edgy feel to it, and with the plastic background and the plastic jacket, it already had like kind of an edgy feel. And then not only just shooting up at her, but also like turning it at an angle creates all of these lines, and I really like doing that. I don't think that I would do anything that different on this one. Is she centered? I think maybe the one thing that I would change of this photo is she's like slightly off-centered, which always drives me crazy. I would either like made her more centered, which I could do in post, or put her in that third.
Do you mind the lines going behind her head?
I don't. I can see why somebody would mind that because it's a rule, but again, it feels like all of those lines are like kind of leading to her and boxing her in.
And there's like enough depth of field where it's like not really
Yeah, it's not that super offensive.
Cool.
Okay, for this one, I thought a lot about this with regret about what I would do differently. I like that it's, just straight on, and that's fine, and we're getting the idea of the plastic on plastic, but I think what would have taken this photo to the next level is if I would have had her interact with it more. Like maybe go behind the plastic. I think like going behind the plastic and getting a close-up would have been really cool.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to go back. Maybe like having her like weave her arms or limbs in and out between the plastic would have been cool.
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe like kind of soloing an eye, like having an eye stick out of the plastic would have been cool. A lot of things, the opportunities are endless possibilities.
And then with like all these straight lines, it can be hard to like, there's a lot of perspective corrections to do.
Oh yeah. So for this photo, it needs to be, the perspective needs to be fixed a little bit. With these old buildings and the hills around here, none of the lines are ever straight. And so that one upright,
you can use the guided upright transform tool to straighten everything out for you. But yeah, I love how like center dominant everything is. I think it's a strong photo.
I like that she's over the number one because she's number one in my heart.
I thought.
Well, she's my number one Jasmine.
I thought from Aladdin you were.
This is my last photo, I promise. This is another one where I walk by this scene a lot, and I always wanted to take advantage of this fence that is hanging at like a 30-degree angle. I thought it'd be really cool to do like that leaning pose in front of it. And so I knew that this was like the perfect opportunity, and we were running out of time, so we quickly ran over in this direction, and I told Jasmine what I wanted, and she did it, and I snapped it, and then I was done. And the image that I got is okay, but there's some things that I would do differently. For starters, there's a guy in the background, and with the fence leaning and then Jasmine leading, it kind of seems like it's all building up to just this guy bending over in the background. And if he was doing something cool, or if he was wearing something cool, or if there was a reason why I wanted you to look at him, it would be cool, but it's not, and I don't want you to see him. So we actually edited him out in the final image. But I think if I would have slowed down and taken some time that we really didn't have, I would have done better, got that guy out of there. The other thing is maybe shooting from a different angle would have like got this building out from behind her head, which is kind of, that bothers me a little bit.
Sure.
The fact that this is black and white kind of takes some of that background noise out of there, but still, I think it could be a little bit better if I maybe shot lower, not better. Okay, I think that's it for my photos.
Okay, yeah, so then I ran across the street with Jasmine. I saw this earthy paint colors in this building and this garage door. I thought it tied in well with the jacket she was wearing, so I had her do this kind of scrouchy pose. Scrouch. The original photo, uncropped, I was like way off center. It was like pretty poor composition. So I fixed it by cropping it, but it's always something that you just want to get right in camera. And that way you don't have to crop in, and it changes like the way the photo looks with the physics of the lens and everything.
Yeah, because we were shooting with a 24 millimeter, and so when you crop in, you lose all of that
The distortion.
The distortion, yeah, that extra space.
Just the optics of it. In general though, it was, yeah, I don't really have a whole lot to say about it. It's like good light on her. I didn't really direct her much here because I was just feeling rushed and I was like a little under the weather, so I wasn't super inspired either. And I just let her do her thing and she did a really good job.
I like the textures of it. The texture down here.
Yeah.
Mix the texture up there, and then she's
like soft light on her.
Yeah. She's just like kind of like in the middle of those rough textures.
Yeah.
Makes her pop out more.
Okay, and then with this jacket, she started like playing around with the collar and I really liked how that looked, so I had her kind of do that again and hold it. And so with this angle, I was going for the more mysterious vibe, with her mouth partially covered. You can only see part of her far eye. So I thought it gave that old school detective kind of feel to it. So this one I was actually really happy with. I think I got the composition right and the focus.
I love this photo. I think you did a really great job.
Thank you.
Yeah, I like that you went from the side and then we've got these lines like kind of going in and boxing her in that way. And she like splits the image where like half of this is the garage and half of it's the fence. And it's really cool.
Yeah, thanks. So we were walking along, it was kind of blue hour at this point, and we passed like a Pilates studio or something that had all these lights on inside and had frosted glass. And so I thought it'd make like a pretty cool backdrop because we didn't have a lot of available light from the sun. And so this was kind of a good way to get her backlit. And I think it turned out pretty cool. It's like a really nice, soft, glowy look. And I used like an adjustment brush in Lightroom to lighten up her face a little bit, just because it was a little backlit. The frosted glass, I thought, it reminded me of that plastic jacket we had, so I had her change into that real fast. And so once again, I took a note from Rachel and tried to tie in her outfit with the environment we were shooting in.
I love this. I think it's so, what's the word? Like thrifty of you is thrifty the word?
That's a word.
To utilize the window that looks like this really professional, really expensive lighting, and it was just found, it was free. The only thing that I think that we could have done differently to make this better is if we had a reflector with us to bounce that light back into her. You wouldn't have had to do so much in post, and we would have been able to bounce that gold light from the studio back into her face, and back onto her, I think again her chest could use some light.
Yeah.
Fingers.
But I think it was like a good kind of like last ditch. I didn't have any location in mind. I didn't know if I was gonna be able to get anything else with the shoot, so I'm glad we stopped.
Yeah, it's tight. This is one of my favorite photos from the whole day.
Thanks.
And that's the last photo. Doctor.
All right.
Okay, before we finish this video, I thought we could talk a little bit about the ways in which we think we could become better photographers.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Okay, so I have 3 things for myself, and I think it's kind of for both of us. So my top main thing on my list of ways to become a better photographer is I think that we need to slow down a little bit more. Since we started this channel, the majority of the time, if not all of the times that we do shoots now, they're for videos. And so we're always like super rushed. We usually have a team of people waiting for us, or worse, we have no team of people and we're doing everything ourselves and we have to focus on the video.
Or we're trying to do like 3 videos with the model in like 2 hours and all during like a certain part of the day where the lighting is good.
Yes. And so we never really have a chance to like slow down, stop, think about the one shot that we want to get, and then quietly, slowly see the shot and get it. And usually it's much more frantic than that. Usually it's trying a few different angles, really quickly, and then hoping that you got something.
A lot of times afterwards I'm like, I hope that turned out.
Yeah, and I don't think good photographers operate that way. And so for me, I always want to like try to get better at being like more slow as a photographer. The other thing is, sometimes I get really excited, like when Jasmine was in front of the plastic wall that I'd been envisioning for a long time.
Yeah, you're skipping around.
I was so stoked that I went trigger happy. Instead of being slow and getting, intentional with my shots, I just did everything that I could in the short amount of time that I had. So again, slowing down I think would be a good goal for us. The second thing was shooting more for fun and more for ourselves instead of shooting just for videos. And the thing that we've done recently to remedy that is we bought like an everyday shooter film camera.
It's like a little point and shoot. You don't have to worry about focusing really.
Yeah, it's light. We keep it in a bag so when we go out we can shoot. And then
literally just for fun.
Yeah, and then that keeps photography fun for us. Okay, and then the last thing, the thing that I could definitely improve, there's two technical things that I get wrong a lot, and the first one is always crooked horizons. That's just been a problem for me from the beginning. Even when I try really hard in camera, it's something that I always miss, which it can be fixed in post, but then that always ends up cropping a little bit of the photo. So that's one place where I definitely need to work. And then the other thing, what was it? Oh, I don't always get composition exactly perfect. Like I like either centering or using a rule of third, and sometimes it's slightly off. And then a lot of times I have to crop and like drag in a corner or something.
Same, yeah.
You lose some of your image, which I don't always like doing. So yeah, slowing down and making sure my composition is.
I would say for me, it's making sure I'm inspired for each shoot, because sometimes when we're just making videos and you kind of start to get burnt out or whatever, you don't always have some creative inspiration for the shoot, you just have to do it. And then I'm relying more on the models to do like some of the heavy lifting, whereas it'd be better if I could give them more direction. So I think that's something I should work on for sure.
You're always like, you can only focus on one thing at a time, and so it's a lot to ask for you to do video stuff and also be focused on the shoot. Like, your brain is either in one mode or the other.
Thanks for joining our therapy session. We hope you learned something by watching us critique our own photos. I think there's a lot of takeaways there that you can apply to your own photography, hopefully. We think it's always beneficial to look at your own work afterwards and see like what can be done in the future and what you can improve.
Yeah. I think that a self-help guru would say that's how you become better as a person.
That's how you crush it.
That's how you crush it. Thanks for watching. Like this video even if you don't. Subscribe even if you already are. And hit the notification bell even if you don't know what that means. And we'll see you in the next one. Bye.
I was gonna say even if you don't like bells. We'll see you next time.
Let's jump right into it.
Cut.
Even if you're afraid of bells.